Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of The Great Ace Attorney. In the previous episode, we began with the new testimony of the witness. The new witness testimony. Today's episode right now, we're bringing Soseki-san back for an encore appearance. If you're hyped today's episode, make sure that like button supports the great to the channel. Here we go. The witness secrets. I asked the English woman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about this in his testimony, which is why many members of the Men's I reveal it now. Why did you bring him here? You mean to say the victim? That victim regained consciousness? And when she did, you decided to ask her a question? That's, true, yes. He did, and that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused. This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack? It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the withering English Rose a question, I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming that Miss Brent implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? I asked the English woman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That is true. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question, but he didn't say anything about this in his testimony, which is why. Okay, what's the question did he ask? What question? What exactly did he say? Well, now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man? Ugh. Out with it, you yokel hack. What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying English woman? Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water edge and building castles in the sand, you see. Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man. But get to the point. But then all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, young girls' panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray. I run up to the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosanaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan, a moan from the dead English woman. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Out with the man, but what did you ask her, Soseki-san? I asked her, who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She just said nothing in response. But... Out with it, man! When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or repentance, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will. Who did this to you? But she never replied. Hold it! So you tried to find out who the culprit was. He who asks a question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remain a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Twice? Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever. However, you indicated that the victim failed to respond. Is that correct? I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stoop and mustache. Because I'm Japanese. Oh dear, Soseki-san has really developed a dislike for English, it seems. Having read the report on this time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at this xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all, did she, Mr. Riderman? Huh? Well, yes, right. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. Out with it, man! Like she just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant.
Hold it!
Miss Bread pointed a finger at the defendant? Soseki-san, is that really true?
It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. And when I asked, who did this to you? The Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut, which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stand accused today. But didn't you say that she left?
No.
So Seki-san, why did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony? But, Fiddlesticks, I say. This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Yes, of course, the Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut. But I was trembling, and she was trembling, and everything was blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere in the back of the hut where nobody was standing at all.
You mean that your memory of events and the direction of the event what poor victim was pointing are both unclear?
Yes, that's it, unclear. I'm very unclear.
Objection!
Your Excellency, sir, this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger weighs slightly, but there can be no doubt this woman is an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because, of course, the court can see there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime.
I am inclined to agree. And in absence of any incredible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial.
No! No! The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyer hopes dash. 92 points across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition.
This is a serious blow, Sensato. Unless we're unable to identify the true culprit and society are claimed with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over.
But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know the crime was committed yet.
Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we learned this far. Somewhere in all these details, I'm confident we'll find the clue. Excuse me.
Ray gave her account of how events unfolded in the defense anti before the trial was resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty for herself, but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all the information we gathered so far, there must be an answer to the question.
I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add?
So, the Gallic Yoko student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised.
In that case, I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter.
This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim?
Objection!
Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being.
Oh, to what end, counsel?
The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
Objection!
Alternative theory? Ha! None exists. There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed the crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to around her at the time by mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction, fantasy.
Very well, as you seem to sure of yourself, Counsel, I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryotaro Naruhodo?
Yes, Your Excellency.
You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Right here. Because they did say she was sitting right here at the moment that happened. So, God forbid that it has to be here.
Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm Naruhodo now. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here.
Are you mad, Counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut?
What?
Order, order! But student lawyer Naruhodo, Esquire, that makes no sense at all.
You just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see any such individuals loitering around. I can swear to that. Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there is no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Aoichi, there is a way. An important fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that it is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing. You're bluffing. You yokel.
The defense assertion is clear to fantastical for the court to comprehend. You'll need to give us more guidance, Counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut?
Hey, I can actually see it.
I guess the magnifying glass was actually useful after all. The original photographic print of the crime scene.
Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from the outside the beach hut. Do you take us for fools? There's no hint at any such thing. I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to.
Counsel, once again, I must call you to explicit for the court. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing, which you claim to take place from the outside of the hut? I didn't even notice because I was looking for everything else, but it's right here.
Take that!
Look closely just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. No, I can't. I can't see any such thing. It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls as you expect, however, by departing the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them.
This is extraordinary.
Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. Oh! And of every present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Raiten Menimemo-san, it could have only been you.
Duh.
Objection!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume as part of the partial scenario that he said it was a knife thrower?
Objection!
Did we not just listen to the testimony earlier? No, of course not. We're not? If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death, inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on the stool in the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as she knew she was untouchable. A stool? Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the reed screen would align perfectly with the back of the person who was sitting on the stool.
My word, so in fact, the victim was...
Killed Willis sitting on the stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the reed screen. Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut. Before the defendant, Membami-san appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Benny Memo-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge. This is absurd.
That will do. It would appear that we have tacit admission of guilt for the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means the defendant, Mbambi-san, is innocent of the crime. It's too easy.
Thank goodness.
That was too easy.
I finally made him cave.
I must say, I've never been more proud.
No, this can't be. The Aoichi clan can't. What of my growth? The growth of hope. It wasn't an apparition. I can't accept it. I won't.
I see no reason for the continuation of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my final verdict. Boom. Boom. Boom.
The Flash.
Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals? We gave you time. We established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the reed screen walls. And no one but you was in place at the time to have this hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction. So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, that trial has already shown the whole thing that hinges on something else. What is he talking about? What are you talking about? What exactly? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up. What? Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that the deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? It's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right? That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that the particular poison was used. I see. So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed. Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could have not circulated in her blood. How refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely. It matters not a jot who stabbed whom in whose back and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife. Did you not just say it was the knife, not the poison before, Chief? But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already... It's on the pan, stupid. Ha! Forgotten already, have we, you cool? During those very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor and your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim has no trace of poison on it whatsoever. So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by defense in this trial, turn out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right? Well... Order! But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There's an undoubtedly obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it. You mean she drank it? Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see. Wine. A bottle of carbonated water and glass had been knocked out onto the sandy floor in the beach hut. Of course, it could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink it.
Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make great front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already. Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell. Oh. Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean? Oh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is prime press folded, that is.
I would assume this trial is not destined to end yet after all.
Testimony. Here we go again.
You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such claim.
I'm a journal and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now because that's minimalism. For a brief moment I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us?
Can you at least teach us